Hi, this is Steve from Fletcher Wolf Racing, also known as Dad. Today we're going to talk about oil pump system for our late model program. This is the beginning of a series, Race Shop Coffee Talk. We'll do a variety of different subjects, technical, race recaps, testing recaps, etc. Video got a little messed up on the front end, so we've had to splice the front of us back in. As you can see now, we've actually got this mounted up on the back of the engine, on the bell housing, which is how it'll mount in the car. So this is still a mock-up for how it's going to fit in the car, mounted to the bell housing, the belt, and now we'll start arranging lines and hoses and that kind of stuff. But the point of this video, which will follow, is how this assembly goes together. We have the 5-stage oil pump from Barnes, the power steering pump from Sweet, and the fuel pump from Sweet. So we'll continue on and show you how this gets assembled. When you get it, it's in various different components. Working backwards, we're going to go ahead and remove the fuel pump. So there's 2 1/4-inch bolts that hold the water pump or the fuel pump on the back here, and we're going to take those out. This is a precision machine process here. I noticed that these bolts, they didn't have Loctite on them. Actually, they looked like they had a little silicone, which would help retain the bolt. It goes into aluminum. I've done that before. It looks like a reasonable thing to me to do. We'll also show some other things in bolting into aluminum. This is not just bolted on here, but there's a hex drive in there, and then there's 2 pins. So you want to be able to work it off. Like I said, it is a precision unit. So if it's tight, don't hit it with a metal hammer. Give her a little bit of a tap and a little bit of a tap, and do it equally. And I can already see a gap opening up between it as I come off the 2 locating pins that are in there. You can see it's coming off real nice and even. You don't want to rush anything. You can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's 2 little dowel pins in here that locate the pump so it can't get clogged. The other thing in here underneath the pump, actually slip it off right like there, there's the drive, 2 little pins. I'm going to set that right there. This is a piece of phenolic, and this is a heat shield. So this, as these pumps run, and they're all pumps getting hot oil run through it, the power steering pump's going to generate some heat. You don't want to heat up your fuel, so this phenolic acts as a barrier to the heat, and it is so closely fit to these pins that if you get it on a little bit crooked, it's not going to go. Neither is the pump. So you need to have it straight. Come off. We'll set that there. That now gives us access to these 2 3/8 Allen head bolts that actually hold the pump to the bracket, the power steering pump, and it's heavy. So I'm going to stand up where I can get some decent torque applied to this thing, because I did assemble it. We're going to break it nice and easy. Because it's only got 2 bolts, we're going to break them loose both ways so we don't get them crooked, right? Back that out, back that out. There's a spacer here. There's also one on the other side to space it between the Sweet bracket and the pump itself. Again, you're into aluminum, so you want to think about how you do that. You want it tight, you don't want to strip it. Slide that one out, spacer comes out with it. There's my bolt on that side. This side is loose, so it's actually all the way out. Slide that out, take my spacer. Now the nose of this is just set into the back of the adapter bracket. So we're going to go nice and gently, and there it is. So the nose of this has been machined to a relatively tight tolerance to nest in there correctly. And when you bolt this down, you want to make sure you don't get it crooked one way or the other, so let it come in nice and gentle. It's got a hex drive on it here. I put a little dab of oil on that, and then I set it in, make sure it's nice and nested. and straight before I tighten it down. The next piece is the adapter plate that comes from Sweet, and this bolts to this bracket on the back. The black one is a Barnes piece. Again, I'm going to stand up so I got some nice leverage here. Now both Barnes and Sweet provide these bolts. They're 1/4 inch coarse thread. Always want to run coarse into a soft metal like aluminum. One set of the bolts was longer than the other set. I've chosen the long ones as they go all the way through the Barnes bracket here to the back side, and they're effectively flush when they get to the back. One of the things I always like to pay attention to is when you're putting a bolt, you're assembling something you haven't done before, you want to check what I call the grip length. You want to make sure that you don't run the bolt into the bottom and it feels tight, but it's actually not tight. So this has a number of patterns that you can run, as does the back of the Barnes adapter has a number of patterns. This would let you clock this bracket, you bolt this, you effectively clock this pump in relationship to the pump here. So you want to think about where that's going to get clocked when it goes into the car. Here's the back of the Barnes pump. Now, I'm not going to take this adapter off. This has got a hex drive that goes in the back, but I'll show you what comes from Barnes. This adapter is a hex that fits the hex here, and those two, that's what drives this pump and allows this pump to turn. Okay, when you buy a pump and it doesn't have all this attached to it, what's in there is this drive unit isn't in there. There's a bolt. This is a specially machined bolt. The head is very thin, and it goes in and it holds the bearing and the oil pump shaft together. So you need to remove this bolt, and it's tight. It's a 5/8 like that, and you need to, without damaging the shaft, hang on to it. If you've bought one of these pumps and you're going to do it, I wouldn't be surprised that the tendency would be to take a small impact and shock that bolt out of there. Don't do that. There's too many drive keys and pieces in this pump. You don't want to shock it like that. Gentle, steady pressure will break it free. That is under a cap. Cap's got an O-ring on it, and these two very small little bolts that hold the cap on. They, to the quick eye, look like they're an Allen, but they're not. They're Torx. You won't get them out correctly with an Allen. You might strip them, but you use the proper Torx. This is a T10, and they come out real nice. Then to get the cap off, again, don't use metal. I've got this one. I got a set of these little plastic scraper things, and I was able to just put it on the edge and just pop it with my thumb, and it came loose, and it came out with no problem at all. Put it together, we're going to just go backwards. That's how the Barnes pump with the Sweet power steering pump and the Sweet fuel pump wind up being a complete assembly. Get a new one. These aren't tight. Make sure you check those, and we'll get that to that when we go ahead and actually plumb the car. So I hope that was helpful if you do this, and thanks for watching.